attending this meeting. This is the third of a series of community meetings. We are at the City of Glendale trying to pull in all the stakeholders that have been affected, that could possibly be affected by the devastating station fire, as well as what may come afterwards in the form of any sort of flooding, mudslides, or any land movement. We have a lot at stake here. We have our homes, we have our businesses, we have our children. I'm very happy that we have been joined again this evening by the GUSD, with represented by Mary Boger, the Board of Education. Are you Vice President? President of the Board of Education. And we have members from the CV Town Council, we have members from the CV Water District, and many other organizations and jurisdictions. This is going to be a very informative meeting, as the other two were. We're becoming a little more focused. We heard some of your concerns in the first two meetings, and we're hoping to come back and give you some specific answers. And the important addition is our children, and what do we do with our children, and how do we best keep them safe and get them from home to school and from school back to home in the event of a catastrophe in the form of water, mud, or land movement.
Good evening, and let me say I want to apologize for not attending the other meetings. I think I had a reasonable excuse. I was out of the country celebrating my 40th anniversary with my wife. I still felt bad about not being here, but I'm here tonight, and I'm looking forward to presentation from the staff, and just as important, listening to the residents to try to zero in on your concerns and what we think we can do to help you. So it's a pleasure to be with you tonight, and look forward to the evening. Thank you.
Well, hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm gonna be pretty brief in my comments. Save the time for some of the other agencies who are bringing new information to the table. We spent a lot of time in our last two meetings talking about what our plan is going to be and some of the things that we'd be rolling out. Most of those you can see, very visible. They're throughout your neighborhoods, K-rails, sandbags, delineators and such. But as I had mentioned to everyone, we were going to try to get this all done by October 15th. And we just made it. We were putting down the last of the K-rails in the rain. But we made it in time, and in time for that first event, which thank goodness wasn't as severe as had been. We have put out 3,000 lineal feet of K-rails. We have about 16,000 sandbags. Probably 2/3 of those deployed, the rest in reserve. The community's been excellent in helping us with those sandbags. We've got 2 community events where I think we filled over 5,000 bags. So it's been a tremendous response from the residents and the community as a whole here throughout this process. The reaction, the assistance, the great questions that we've gotten from all of you, it's been outstanding. Nothing short of outstanding. As I said, that I spent a lot of time up in this part of the city since the fire, and I'm simply amazed that all the time when I talk to people and see the kind of pride in community and thoughtfulness and courtesy and just genuine concern about where you live and how you take care of it. So I really appreciate that on behalf of my department and certainly the whole city to express my appreciation. A couple of things, anticipating questions. Number one, you probably saw in the paper, there was some question about the ability to access sidewalks, especially around schools where we had placed the K-rails. We left those up to try to maximize the property protection. So this past week, we made some adjustments with the weather forecast looking very good, unbelievably good for November. We were able to make those adjustments to make sure that we had a clear path, protected path to travel for the students, for disabled residents. You may see that in some cases we have one side of the street still blocked, but what I say, we have a clear path of travel. You may have to cross the street to get to the other side to where the sidewalk's open. But we have a continuous path all the way down from Markridge to at least Santa Carlotta, I believe, and even beyond that. We didn't have a lot of placement of the devices below Santa Carlotta. It was sporadic, mainly just some severe or some areas that severe situations, low-lying areas that would be vulnerable. So we've made those adjustments. Again, if anybody sees something they have a question on, if they see something that concerns them, by all means, give us a call, give me a call personally, and we'll address it right away. This is, as you've heard, many of you heard, if you haven't, we're in for the long haul in this particular situation. This is minimum, we'll be looking at this for 3 years, more than likely 5 years. You'll hear that from flood control when they come up and give their presentation, that that's the kind of scenario they're looking for. So we're going to have sandbags and K-rails up and around for the next several years. And we're going to make sure that folks are comfortable with those and that we're addressing any concerns that you may have. There was a great question raised. How long are you going to keep these in place? Now, ideally, as I just said, with a 3 to 5 year scenario, we'd like to keep them up for the whole 3 to 5 years. But knowing that there may be some circumstances, especially as we reach the summer months, where we make some level of adjustment, you have to understand the monumental task it is for us to set these out. This is every single guy that works for me in maintenance services, 2 straight weeks to put these out. Now, the thing is, we can't ever let ourselves get caught where we have a situation where we've got a weather forecast in 24 hours or even 48 hours. We won't have the ability to put these back out. If, for instance, we were to come in and take them all out, put them up, store them, and bring them back. So, ideally, we want to keep them up in their current locations for as long as we can throughout this period of time. 3 years for sure, then we can evaluate it and see. In certain circumstances, there are some options residents may have if they don't like a K-rail. There are some what are called pipe and timber walls. Many of you may have already gotten some information from the County Public Works Department on those. These can be designed in such a way as to, they look a little nicer, but they can also be more easily removed and put back in place. Of course, we would need to work with you individually and provide you with some direction if that's in fact what you would choose to do in place of the K-rail. Our concern, especially as you get closer to the burn area up on Markridge, for instance, is the rock. So the heavy rock debris potentials that come down there, and there's a certain point where these pipe and timber walls may not be the most effective in those situations. So the concrete K-rails are what we would recommend. But certainly as we go through this, and again, you've all been so great about this, we will continue to work with you in those areas where there might be some concerns. On another note, we had a great question about, can we decorate the K-rails? And absolutely we're looking at that. Believe it or not, the Public Works Department, not known for artistic talents or acumen, are very, very supportive of doing that. Our friends in the Parks Department are much more suited to do that kind of thing, so we're working together to see about involving the schools and the community and the social groups, the clubs that are out there, scouts and so forth, to look at possibly a contest or some sort of a mural painting where we have a number of the K-rails put together, but something that can bring the community together to do this, and at the same time address these rather stark concrete K-rails up a little bit. Like the extent of our artistic talent is to stencil Public Works on them, so we're real proud of that too. So any assistance or suggestions you have, and we'll certainly work with Parks to do that. Some folks have asked about having kids do it and customize it to your house. If you have, as I'm sure you've seen, some houses have quite a few of these around their structure. So whatever we can do to help ease that, we're also working with Parks folks on that. Another thing, and this right next to me, Mr. Frega, our IS director, is here to answer any technical questions. I thought I would cover this real quick. in order for us to have a better idea, and really, in the rain event, and I think I had mentioned this before, we've got two places that up in this area that we're locating ourselves. For our command center, it's at the park, Dunsmore Park, so we're there in the community room. We have our forces staying up in this area where they're most needed. They can go down there, they can get something to eat, they can rest, but they don't have to go all the way back to our corporate yard facility that's at the southern end of town or City Hall. The other thing is we have temporarily reactivated the old water and power yard at Altoona, Pennsylvania, where we have some of our equipment, some K-rails, some sandbags, some of the necessary items that we would use in responding to the fire, to the flood or debris flow. We also have some materials placed up at Newton Park so that we're getting ourselves in a situation both north and south covered so we can get in and move as quickly as possible. Another thing we wanted to do was to provide information, links of information down to our emergency response center that is located at City Hall. So we're going to install some cameras that allow us to see back into the canyons at key locations. And they're here to my right, and your left, which would be the western side, is off of Boston, where you have what's called the Cooks Canyon debris basin. That's a very significant facility for the collection of water, mud, and debris. Then moving eastward, we would put another camera, plan to put another camera just below where the ranger station is at Newton Park to oversee what is that first line on Markridge. It's called the sediment placement site. It's also a county facility, but it gives us an idea that these cameras are able to pan very, very fast. So you casino camera. But we'll be able to look up into the hillside area where the burn areas are. We'll be able to begin to see if we see any warning signs of heavy debris flow so that we can react accordingly. Obviously, in those situations, we're looking at what our trigger points for evacuation would be. So that gives us the ability to see a problem starting before it reaches through the park and down onto the street level. The third one would be looking at the Dunsmere Basin. Large basin just to the east of Newton Park. And then the last one will be over at the Ashrama facility. This is Markridge, Pennsylvania area. There's a large concrete and rock wall you'll see there. That's the backing of another debris basin. So we put a camera on the Ashrama property that looks down into that and back into their facility where we could have some heavy debris flow. So, covering that, we're available to answer any technical questions when we get to the question and answer. So, yes, Mr. Starboard.
Steve, lighting on those?
We're working through the lighting right now. It's kind of delicate because you're trying to get enough light at night where you can actually see something that makes it sense to have the cameras, at the same time not producing so much light that we are affecting residents in their homes.
Steve, we activate these during the rain?
Yes.
They're not going to be on all the time?
No, they will not be on all the time. They're only for rain events, and they're only for us really to monitor. Hopefully we'll be able to monitor them from our sub-command post up here at Dunsmore Park, but also from our emergency operations center down at City Hall.
Could you repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. The question was lights associated with the cameras. So in order for us to see at night, we're looking at some sort of lighting, backlighting, so that we get a better view of what's happening. But we're right now trying to figure out what level of lighting we use, what kind of lighting, because we don't want it to be a nuisance to the area, the residents in the near area. The other question was, will these cameras be on all the time? No, they'll only be on when it is raining. So once the rain starts and we need to monitor the channels, the debris basin, the burnt areas of the park, that's when we'll activate those and monitor. I think that does it for me. We are going to have an opportunity afterwards to answer questions, and I'll be here after the meeting as well. So with that, I'm going to introduce Dick Sheehan with the school district.
Hey, my name is Dick Sheehan. I'm the deputy superintendent. At a dinner the other night, I was asked what I do, and this year it's been fires, the flu, the funeral, the Michael Jackson funeral, and now floods. And so, as we prepare, we work very closely with the city and the county. During the station fire, we worked with Captain Silverspar from the LA County Sheriff's Department and Chief Scoggins from Glendale Fire, and basically they came in as a superintendent's group. Our cabinet met at Mountain Avenue, and we actually met the Sunday prior to the start of school, and that's when we made the decision to delay the opening of school. And district-wide, we use a connected phone calling system where we have the ability from a central location. The superintendent basically called all the families within the district. We also have this ability to do it site by site. This past rainstorm, we did have people in the city's EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. Anytime that there's any type of an emergency, we send personnel there so we can be alerted at any time during the night or day if we need to come up to this area, basically any area within the district. We monitor the weather conditions like everybody else. We go online. I understand the Doppler 7000 far better than I have in the past. As I said, we have contingency systems. We're working with our bus company, and so basically we have buses on call for the district 24 hours a day in case we were to need them. This is an arrangement we've made with our carrier. If a flood or a situation were to occur before school starts, obviously this is where we're going to be working with the city and the county to make a determination if it's safe to even have school. And so basically that would be a decision where we get information. As I said before, we met at Mountain. This last time when the rains came, we actually, as a group, met at Dunsmore, and obviously nothing materialized with that. Principals would then have the ability through our Connect Ed to call out to all their families to inform them whether or not we're going to have school. Now, our hardest or one of the biggest concerns is what happens if we were to get a downpour or a microburst or a situation during school. And so basically, we're going to have to make a decision working with the proper authorities from the city and the county whether we need to evacuate, whether or not it would be safe to evacuate. Because if we have the streets are impassable, it might be safer just to do a stay put, and have the kids stay at the school. And so to be prepared for this, our food services has stockpiled more food at the campuses that are above foothill. They have also, one of the things that we're doing is we're pairing elementaries together. For example, Dunsmore and Valley View, if we had to have an evacuation, would be moved to Lincoln. Then we would do the connected message out to all the parents that they would pick up their kids at Lincoln Elementary. Monte Vista and Mountain would go to La Crescenta. And then Rosemont and Clark, Magnet, would go to Crescenta Valley High School. And so basically, Clark would go to the large gym, and we would have a checkout procedure through the gym. Rosemont would go to the auditorium. So we would keep the kids that were evacuated in two different areas with different checkouts so parents would be able to pick up the kids. As far as the elementaries, because of the size of our elementaries, we would basically have to double and triple up the classrooms with kids and use the auditoriums and the cafeterias as best we can. But numerically, we think we would have no problem housing those kids at those other sites. Once again, the principals, okay, so Karen Stegman, who's our principal at Dunsmore, has worked with Bill Card at Lincoln, same with Carla Walker in Lincoln, and so we have an open line of communication between our principals, so they are prepared in the event this were to happen. Now, if flooding begins as school is ending, we basically would go into a lockdown mode, to assess the situation. One of the things we've worked with the city, as far as Dunsmore Elementary, for example, we might shift the pickup from one side to the other side of campus, depending on what's happening. The city, as Steve mentioned, is using Dunsmore Park as their headquarters, and so we might route people to the backside of the school for pickup. And if we did that, we would do that through a Connect Ed message and try and give people plenty of lead time. The best thing I can tell you is we maintain an open line of communication. With the station fire, we were a little concerned that we were putting out too much information because Dr. Escalante went on the Connect Ed to the families, but all we received was positive feedback from our parents, that they appreciated the fact that we were keeping them in the loop on a regular basis. And so that's basically what we would do with the floods.
Currently, the Connect Ed rents our home numbers. Is there a way to add in the cell phone numbers
Yes.
of our parents? Because if they're at work, they won't get home to get the phone numbers.
Parents can designate up to 3 numbers to be called.
Okay, staff also.
Staff also. Anyone in the Connect Ed system can have multiple phones connected.
They would call their own phone when we were active.
Well, but that's what was designated, so we can get that worked out.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Wood. I'm with Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, and I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. Just want to give you a few updates on the post-fire efforts in your area. First, the update on the efforts in the debris basins. All of our, we have about 14 debris basins and debris retaining inlets in the Glendale Annex and next door La Crescenta. All of the debris basins and debris retaining inlets have been cleaned out for the upcoming storm season. The following debris basins are also being retrofitted for temporary capacity enhancement. We have a Pine Lawn debris basin, Starfall debris basin, and Pickens debris basin. They're all in the La Crescenta area. And we are pursuing temporary capacity enhancement also at the Goss retaining inlet. All of the debris facilities that are listed up on here, they are going to be requiring frequent cleanouts during the next several years, especially during the storm season and afterwards. So this will result in increased truck traffic during the next 3 to 5 years of hillside recovery. Haul routes. What we focused on here, since this is City of Glendale, is that we focused on the haul routes that we used for the City of Glendale for the most recent cleanouts. To get up to most of the debris was taken to Dunsmuir Sediment Placement Site for the Glendale facilities and also for the La Crescenta facilities. We would access it via Foothill Boulevard, and we went up Boston to Mark Ridge to the entrance of the sediment placement site, and then we worked our way down back to Foothill Boulevard via Dunsmore, Santa Carlotta, Orange, and then down Pennsylvania Avenue. During subsequent cleanouts, county maintenance staff will coordinate with city staff on what best haul routes to use at the time. Just one thing to keep in mind is that the more efficient the route that we're able to take, the quicker we can get our cleanouts done and get out of your neighborhood. Engineering advice update. We have knocked on a lot of doors up in your community. In the Glendale Annex area, about 50 properties. About 6 properties all the way down in the little freeway fire area down in Glendale by the 134 and the 2 interchange. And then we've about 100 properties in the next door La Crescenta unincorporated. We do have a toll-free number for people who want to ask about engineering advice, and it's at 1-800-214-4020. For mudflow protection measures, just to go over, I'm sure that you've heard this in other meetings, and we just want to go over it again. First and foremost, the property owner is the one who's responsible for protecting his property. What we do on the advice is that we try to help out the property owner to figure out a way to best do that. Now, the goal of the advice is to deflect flows around your home and to the street without impacting your neighbor. We also want to remind people to place protective measures within your property boundaries. And because this fire occurred so soon before the start of the storm season, we just need to implement these measures as soon as possible. As stated before, post-fire effects are expected to last about 3 to 5 years. You may need to implement these measures every storm season during the burned watershed recovery. Now, the recommendations that we provided in our advice to residents are for short-term purposes. So property owners are advised to consult their own professionals for more longer-term or permanent measures. We are also wanting to let people know that for your permanent measures and so forth, please check with your local building official and with the city in regards to make sure that you are complying with local codes and ordinances. The update on the K-rails in La Crescenta. We identified need for K-rail placement in various streets in La Crescenta, in the Briggs Terrace area and in the Pine Glen Road area. The K-rail locations were based on the likelihood of debris flow and deposition, and also where homes appeared to be at or below the street level. Work began in early October and was just completed late last week. The K-rails, as in the city of Glendale, they will be remaining in place for 3 to 5 years. The K-rails were placed in the street right-of-way to protect the homes along the street. So please, along these streets, drive carefully and take the cars off the streets when storms are forecasted. Now, a lot of questions have been put about driveway barriers. When the K-rails were placed, especially in the La Crescenta area, when the K-rails were placed, they did not close the driveways for obvious reasons. People needed to get in and out of their houses. It is therefore critical that the residents with those driveways, that they place some form of barrier across their driveways when the storms are forecasted. And there are several ways of doing this. You can put sandbags across your driveways. You can do a pipe and timber structure. Or if you find that that's a little too difficult to do, what some folks have looked on is that they actually went onto the internet and they found some plastic water-fillable K-rails so that they can more easily get them, take them up and take them down when the storms are forecasted and when they're over. Other post-fire action items, we have prepared some mudflow face maps, and they are posted on our website, which is at www.dpw.lacounty.gov. Mudflow forecasts, we do issue those during the storm season. They are prepared when the storms are forecasted. They are issued twice daily around 7:30 a.m. and 5 p.m. And any member of the public can also sign up for these mudflow forecast notifications using e-Notify at our website. We are also continuing to coordinate with the Sheriff and Fire Department on evacuation plans and procedures, and we are coordinating with our County Road Maintenance Division and Sheriff on road closures and procedures. Now, the mudflow areas that were of concern, for the Glendale area, mudflows were primarily, where we're really focusing on, are around Mark Ridge Road, around the vicinity of Dunsmore Avenue and the entrance to Major Park, Dunsmore Avenue in the vicinity of Mark Ridge Road, and the access road above Rim Hill Drive to Pennsylvania Avenue. For the La Crescenta area, we were primarily focusing on Pine Lawn Drive, Pine Glen Road, Pine Ridge Drive, and then Canyonside Road, Manzanita Street, Maurice Avenue, and Irving Avenue. The mudflow maps, again, they are posted on our website.
Are they different from the USGS one format?
Yes, they are. Although we do have the mud flows we do have them superimposed on a USGS quad map. These were produced by us, not by the USGS. So in conclusion, just some things to remember. Property owners are encouraged to remain vigilant to protect themselves, their family, and their property. They are encouraged to implement mud flow protective measures as soon as possible. Pay attention to weather forecasts. Please keep in mind that the post-burn debris potential can last 3 to 5 years. And please be tolerant of the increased truck traffic that is going to be in your neighborhood. We know that they're necessary. We know that they are very inconvenient, but those trucks are there to protect you. And please drive carefully on the streets with the K-rails. And take the cars off the streets when the storm is forecasted. Thank you.
Let me go over a couple of things real quickly. My name is Dave Aher, and I'm in charge of park design and development for the City of Glendale. Appreciate your attention this evening. We've got a number of methods to notify folks. So if you have signed in tonight, you've given us your email address, we'll put you on our email notification system to give you updates in terms of what we're doing for future meetings or other activities related to the storm. We also have a number of volunteer opportunities for folks that want to become involved in either sandbagging or helping their neighbors. We're going to look at this in a couple of ways. The first step is the short-term emergency response, and that's what we've been doing for the last 2 months. Then we're going to start looking longer term, the ongoing response to these flood dangers. So we're connected with the National Weather Service. All of our staff at the city, our core group that's working on this, which is a large group, will receive phone calls and emails from the Weather Service when we have any type of strong weather system approaching the La Crescenta area. When that happens, then we'll kick our emergency response efforts into gear. We'll start notifying folks in the area as well. In the event that there is imminent danger, we have a telephone mass notification system very similar to what the school uses. And we would identify those areas that are in that danger and start calling and start putting city staff, both fire, police, but also our street crews out there to start addressing the storm issues and the debris flows that come with that. And as we've become educated about this, we learned that it's not just mud flow, it's debris flow. So from those hills there, and I live up here along with you, so I'm just as concerned from a personal standpoint. But there are large rocks, trees, and all of that end up coming down in a large debris flow. The storm drain basins up there, or debris basins, are designed to capture most of that. But again, it's not something that has laser-like accuracy, so Mother Nature may not cooperate when that starts flowing. So that's part of the concern with all of that. Then in the longer-term effort, we're going to be working on restoring the park. As many of you know, Dugmasian Park was the main area burned in the city of Glendale portion of La Crescenta. And that's 700 acres of parkland that was burnt up there. So we'll have opportunities for residents and also for the schools, partnering with all the folks in the school district on involving the kids in learning about fire ecology and how these parks and how wildlands recover from fire. So there is an educational opportunity to this, and hopefully along the way we'll involve some of these folks that we've been working with from the U.S. Geological Survey who have PhDs in geology and biology and other kinds of rock study that you wouldn't normally think about, but might be a place where kids want to have a career in the future. So that'll be a kind of a longer term component of it. Locally, I was at Anawalt Lumber the other day. They are selling different forms of debris barriers and that. So if you're interested in that, Anawalt's a local business that can supply you with equipment and materials. And then, of course, we're handing out sandbags from Dunsmore Park. There are a lot of sandbags at Dunsmore Park. So if you need them, that's where they are. Our number at City Hall, I know we've said call us, but our number there is 548-3900. And on our website, we have put all the information related to the fire. We meet almost daily on how to address this post-fire and potential storm situation. So there's a lot of staff paying attention to this. And again, we recognize that this is going to be a long-term effort. So we'll keep focusing on this, and the winter months will be the most severe in terms of storm potential. And then in the summer months, a lot of recovery efforts and opportunities for kids and families to come out and collaborate with staff in the school district on that. So if you haven't signed in, please do sign in and give us your email, and we'll make sure to notify you if you're interested. Jeff, when's our next park tour?
We're going to be doing 2 tours at Duke Bacon on Saturday, November 21st, and Sunday, November 22nd. We have a flyer here. We had about 200 people come out earlier in October to tour the park. As you know, it's closed right now. This will be your opportunity to come in, see the park as it is about 3 months after the fire, and we'll share with you the future plans and the history of the park. And we're calling it Back to the Future, the tour of Duke Bacon Wilderness Park.
Okay, so that's November 21st and 22nd. You'll be able to tour Dukmatian Park. And the park is closed, and it's closed for a couple of reasons. There's a significant amount of ash there in the park, and that's just not good for you to be breathing that in that intensity. The other reason is the county trucks and city trucks. We have about 3,000 truck trips up there to clean out that debris basin. So with that many large vehicles and that much heavy equipment moving around up there, we have to eliminate the other vehicles so that we make it a safer environment for everyone. And then lastly, there's the potential for rock slides, and then that's hard to imagine when it's 80 degrees out, but it's certainly something that's occurring. So with that, I think I'll stop. Staff is here. We can answer questions for you, and we'll hang around as long as you like, and I'll start answering questions, and we'll bring people up that know the answers to questions I don't. Yes, ma'am.
This may sound like a really silly question, but exactly which properties are in danger? If I'm not on Mark Ridge, if I'm not on Canyon Side, if I'm not on one of those, do I not need to worry about anything except maybe egress? And
the adage we're given is we're hoping for the best but preparing for the worst, and each and every one of you should do the exact same thing. I don't know all the details and specifics up in your area in Briggs Terrace, but I know it's very severe, very severe. And that there is a lot of potential danger there. For us, in Glendale proper, the Annex area, we obviously have that front line between Pennsylvania and Boston along Mark Ridge, probably too deep. Boston Arnell is an area that's in a very severe potential danger, depending on the amount of rain that we get. There's some locations in and around the Cooks. I mentioned the Cooks Basin that over by Boston there. So, and exactly as had been stated, where you see the heavy concentration of K-rails and sandbags, those are the locations that we deem to be the most in potential danger. But however, any low-lying properties we've also identified and tried to put bags on. But as a homeowner, you should be very vigilant in preparing.
well, then I'm really confused because I don't see any, and I know it's not the city, it's the county, but I don't see any K-rails near Freeman, near where I am, and there are a lot of properties that just seem to me that would need. I mean, we know when it rains, we have these the channels go, and I don't see anything there protecting them. So I'm just wondering, is someone going to come up to that area and tell us, you need to worry, you don't need to worry, you need to do this, you don't need to do that?
Well, your area was not ignored. we did have teams go up there. If you really want to know about your specific property, just go ahead and call us at that 1-800 number, 214-4020. Give us a call, and we can take a look and see whether or not your specific property has any potential debris issues.
Right. Well, I'm here really representing a lot of my neighbors who couldn't be here tonight. So that'd be great. Good. And I'm not suggesting that you were ignoring us. I was just wondering why we didn't see any K-rails. I was just wondering.
Well, we put the K-rails primarily in the areas where we figured that there was going to be the greatest potential for the debris flows to come down, and also where it had the greatest concentration of homes that were probably like at or below street level. And they were the most vulnerable, so they were the ones where we decided that's where we needed to put it. We were giving advice to a whole bunch of folks, and it was the same advice all the way around. Board up or sandbag up the fronts of your house. So what we did is that we got together with the Natural Resources Conservation Service. It's the old Soil Conservation Service. And we figured that it was the most cost-effective means to protect everybody on there was to get into a program with them, and a cost-sharing program to put in those K-rails in these concentrated areas where we were providing the same advice, one house after another on the same street. But we did take a look up in the Briggs Terrace area and the other streets around that area. But please feel free to call us at the 800 number, and we'll take a look and see whether or not your property really has any potential debris issues.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
I noticed that you have Glendale has an evacuation plan for Clark, for Rosemont, for Dunsmore, and the elementary schools in this area. Now, Clark is below Markridge. I don't see any K-rails on Santa Carlotta or anything really past Markridge. A little bit on Dunsmore and some of the side streets, but nothing down here. Now, are you guys worried about Clark washing away? Those of us that live near Clark, are we in any danger of washing away, or are we just kind of just be overly cautious in developing an evacuation plan for Clark?
All of the sites, all of the placement of our devices have been put in those areas where we feel are the most vulnerable in the event of rain. The further you get down here, while I've said before, our goal is to keep all of the debris and the mud flow in the street and have it continue to wash down. That's just the natural carrying channel. Pat mentioned in her presentation, we keep it away from the homes, we keep it in the street. It's easier for us to clean up and address that way. I think some of the evacuation issues with the school come from, you've got parents dropping off and picking up. And if those streets are incapacitated due to these flows, it doesn't necessarily mean that the school is in physical danger, but it just means that the children in the school, the parents they might be stranded. So if you can imagine the street out here, top of curb to top of curb, flowing with debris, rock, dangerous situations. You don't want to drive your car in there. And you don't want to have your children coming out to try to get into the car. So in working with GUSD, that's what we've been looking at. If everything's really working right, we've protected the homes in the most severe areas, we've got all of the debris and the mud flowing down the street where we can manage it, collect it, and get it out of the way. That's a good thing. However, it's going to be really difficult for you to get to your kids. In fact, that could be very dangerous. So that's where we work with seeing about when the school would pull that trigger to close or evacuate and get out of the way before the heavy debris started coming down the street. Again, physically, the school may be perfectly okay. It's just about the kids we're worried about.
Talking about
Okay, thank you.
What about for the residents? How much lead time can we expect?
We're going to try to give you as much as we can. We talked about that at one of our previous meetings where we were looking at rainfalls. If we get 2 inches in a 3-hour period, a 12-hour continuous, those are when we start to get together with our own internal folks and look at the potential for evacuation. Now, even our last rain event, it actually had one of those trigger points, the 12-hour saturation point, and we almost got there actually on the 3-hour, but it wasn't a problem. So you can't have an automatic where it just reaches a point and we all of a sudden call everybody up and say you can leave, because we're going to do that 2 or 3 times. We're going to get tired of us calling you and you're not going to leave, and then when it's really serious, we have a problem. So while we do have these points where we begin to seriously look at what
what we may need to do to try to notify people to get out of their houses. We are continuing to evaluate as it happens. So again, we had first rain is usually able to manage it a little bit better. You got dry conditions, we've had a drought, it absorbed at the basins, the channels, everything worked perfectly. Fully expect that to happen throughout the rest of this winter and the winters to come. But we have those points where we look and say, here's the forecast, here's what we're monitoring. There's rain gauge and rain evaluation in this area. USGS has put up a mud debris flow site and a rain gauge site, so we have some really good, accurate data right up to this area. And then we have to kind of play it by ear and see how bad it really is before we make that call on which homes that we're going to ask to leave. But we always are looking to trying to give the most notification that we can. But again, just like in the fire, folks said, if you're in some of those really vulnerable areas, you might want to keep that bag packed in the car, have your valuables taken care of ahead of time, maybe put things away for the winter, and so that when you do get that call, you're ready to roll.
Question. We're talking about controlling the mud flow, sending it down to Dunsmore or whatever. But I look at the pictures from the floods of the 30s, and I see pictures of boulders bigger than trucks sitting on a foothill. Mm-hmm. So what is our worst case situation? Because there's many more houses here now than there were then.
Well, again, you mentioned all the way back to the 30s, so we do have some advantages that we didn't have back then, which is a much more advanced flood control debris collection system. However, there's only so much we can actually do, and at the point we're going to have to say, it's time for you to leave. There's nothing more we can do. There is a lot of rock here. There is a lot of big rock. There's no doubt about it. There's people that have rock landscapes in this area that wasn't done intentionally. That was left over from previous, and they just made do with what was there. If you've been up to Duke Nation Park, you see the pile, literal stack of rocks that came out of the developed portion of the park. It's phenomenal. My good friends in the Parks Department have been putting up a pipe and timber wall there. It is a phenomenal job to try to get this thing moving. There's jackhammering their way through to get this pipe and timber wall in. So at some point we say that's as much as we can do. When the basins and the channels are overwhelmed and the devices we put in place are overwhelmed, we're going to ask you to leave. And we hope that everybody responds to that.
The flow, are we looking mainly at Mark Ridge for the Glendale area and the north-south route? What if our property is on the east-west route, right below Mark Ridge? My place is at the Merrill Place, right below the Mason Park. So I noticed my neighbor at my back had a K-rail, but I'm on his south side, north side of the Merrill Place. So basically I'm one street below Duke Mason Park. Does it mean are we in danger, or is that because how would the flow goes?
The area that's right below the park, Mark Ridge, and even another house or two deeper south, between the entrance of the park and what is the access road to the sediment placement site, which is actually Dunsmore, comes right out onto Dunsmore. Those areas in there are some of the most could potentially be the most severely impacted if we get substantial rain. So they're the ones we're watching very, very closely, along with some areas up on Boston in the Arnell cul-de-sac. So yes, if there's other questions you have or concerns, get a hold of us individually and we'll come out and reevaluate your house and make sure, as Patricia said, there are some things that we're going to need you to do, especially in your backyards and your driveways and things like that. But if there's any other advice we can give you, it's not a one-time offer. We'll be willing to do that all through this winter.
Have you called the 1-800 number to ask about your property? Have you? No? Well, by all means, go ahead and call the 1-800 number, and we'll take a look and see whether or not where your house is particularly situated, if there's any potential debris issue.
I'm on the corner of Frederick and Henrietta, and they did put a K-rail above my driveway because my house is below the street. But now, it doesn't look as though my neighbors on that cross street are going to be in any danger, because there's two streets above us. Is that correct?
That sounds very, very possible.
It's probably going to go down Frederick.
That's what our hope is. The engineering department and our maintenance staff looks at, and if you look at the street, some of the streets flow to one direction one side of the street, so that it potentially could have a more severe issue on that side of the street versus the other side. So we've had some people say, hey, how can they have K-rails and sandbags so prominently placed on one side but not the other? And we try to explain to them that the flow of the street is actually working in their favor. They're on the drier side and the side that would be less impacted.
We live corner of Middle and Dunsmore, which is 1 block below Markridge. It's my understanding that there's this huge pipe that runs between Frederick and Dunsmore, between the houses on Markridge and the houses on Middle. And it's like a drainage pipe. And apparently that pipe is not owned by the city, so the city is not maintaining it. It's on private property. And the question is, how well are the owners involved keeping that pipe clean, and what are the chances that's going to back up and everything will flow into the backyards of people that are on Neville?
Well, let me answer, and then Patricia can obviously chime in. Part of the storm water catch basin and conveyance system, collection and conveyance system, is owned and maintained by the city, and part of it is owned and maintained by the flood control folks, County Public Works. Ours has been cleaned twice already in anticipation of the winter, and I can speak from my own experience that the county has been very thorough in their cleaning. Also, the design of these pipes and channels is such that they're designed to carry debris and not clog. And we saw that in action. I've been to this once before up in the Brand area, and the whole Brand debris basin and the way that the water flowed. So we've been out especially concentrating on the stormwater collection system. And Patricia mentioned in her presentation, we'll continue to do that. Both of us will continue to go through and clean that. We'll have people boots on the ground actually during events looking for trouble areas. And if we have to make adjustments and do cleaning, we'll do it right there. But these systems are designed very, very well.
You kept talking about keeping cars off the streets in a rain event. Are you mainly talking about north-south streets or east-west streets as well? Because if we have to keep cars off the street, what do we do with them?
It's primarily where the K-rails are going to be, but also the north-south streets. When you start getting flows that are large flows, they're going to be going lickety-split down these very steep graded streets. It can really wreak havoc with the drainage, especially when you got cars in the way, where flows all of a sudden are not going to be staying in the street. They're going to be going outside of the street boundaries, and we want to keep everything within the street boundaries. So on these streets where we've got the K-rails placed, and especially the north-south streets, it is best to get the cars off the streets and let the streets do their work.
You know, before we take the next question, I thought I'd quickly point out this slide that we've put up here, people. This is just an idea. When I was talking earlier about the need to keep our protection devices out the street, this is rainfall in this area between 1918 and 29. You can see here that we really don't have, except maybe in that June, July area, totally dry months. And if you look at the May and August, which is the late spring and the early summer, and even in September, most of those, I believe, are single events or events that were freak in happening. But those are the kind of things that if we weren't prepared, if we didn't have the devices out, we'd be literally in a world of hurt. We don't want to get caught in any situation with the severity of the burn area where we don't have these devices in place, and we should get one of these freak storms. Quite frankly, the storm we just had, the October 15th, 13th, was one of the 45 years. That's the most rain at that time in October in 45 years in this area. So right away we got hit with an anomaly. And it's important to always be prepared. So that's why we put that slide up there.
In regards to the LA County Department of Public Works, you guys have been fabulous to respond. We call, you're out there. If we don't get you out there, you at least can satellite view on the property. You look at the assessor map, you're on it. They're good. Go to them. If you have a question, really go to them. Be vigilant on your own property. Deborah Marlowe's here. I see her over there. Raise your hand. Deborah lives at the corner of Briggs and Shields. She spent $2,700 on sandbags for her own property because she had to protect her own property. I have two questions for you.
2,000 sandbags right at the corner.
Yeah, and it is a burlap princess heaven. So, and she's protecting her own home. So we have to be vigilant on our own. We know that there's guidelines you have, but we still have to protect our own homes.
All this talk is about the north end of town. Where does all this mud and rock go?
Well, hopefully we can contain it as much as possible right here. But, as you draw lines, depending on the severity of the flow, Santa Carlota, Foothill, Honolulu. But the Verdugo Wash is down by Honolulu. That's where it goes in. That's where the Dunsmuir Channel flows into, and the Cooks Basin Channel flow into that area down there. So that's a natural course. There's also a natural course that comes across from the eastern part of the city and flows down to the Verdugo Wash. So while this is an area we're paying a special amount of attention to because of the severity of the fire, and also the small freeway fire in East Glen Oaks that we have to keep an eye on. In Glendale, we always are very vigilant in our efforts during the rainy season. We have our share of problems even when we don't have a fire to worry about. So all of these things are components of our winter storm preparation and response that we have going on. But in this particular case, depending on the amount, Dave mentioned numbers, 203,000 cubic meters is the number we had heard. Something like that comes out in a very short period of time. We'll be down on Foothill trying to keep it there. But each point, as you go down south, is where we try to draw the line and hold it there and get it cleaned up, and hopefully get a break in the weather, and we can get it cleaned up and then wait for the next round.
I have a question. Since CV High is reserved for a school evacuation site, do we have a predetermined evacuation site for residents?
We haven't set a new venue for the community. We would normally look at our park venues, but those are the venues that are in jeopardy. So we would probably work with the school district to find schools that aren't going to be utilized and use them. Certainly we always have the civic auditorium. We'd like to find something closer to you up here. So in the event that we don't, we'll use the civic auditorium. It's got a lot of parking, a lot of capacity, and we staff it, we know it well. But if we're able to find a venue that's closer to you up here, in the event that this occurs when school's on school break, we might be able to use CV High School. And hopefully it's only a couple of days that we have to evacuate people for a severe storm. Again, part of it is evacuating because of the potential for danger. So if there is that type of severe heavy rain for an extended period, we're going to know about that from the National Weather Service. We're going to get that information out to you via email, via telephone. We're going to have it on the city website. We're going to have it on Channel 6. We'll put it out in press releases. And then we'll have our staff out in the residential areas of the community letting you know what it is we're working on. These storm drain basins that are up here are designed to handle very large flows. But in the event that there was an exceptional storm, exceptional mud flow event, it's like designing for the Super Bowl. You don't design your streets to carry that kind of capacity. But the streets are designed to carry the mud and the water, and our goal is to keep it in the street and not let it reach people's property. The main effort is to preserve life, then property. We're all going to be inconvenienced for a while by this, and it's just a matter of when that may happen.
Just to follow up on another person's question about telephone numbers to be on the Connect Ed, do we go through the principal's office in the schools? Do we go through the central office for?
We would go through the principal's office.
Thank you. And then for reverse 911, some people did not get phone calls, and it's understandable. But is there a number which we should call to say, please add me to the reverse 911 number or calling list?
All Glendale Water and Power customers will be asked within the next month to start updating their information. GWP will be contacting all of you to get your phone number updates, cell phone numbers, how far you want to be updated on the reverse 911.
Okay, but if we're not GWP, if we're not Glendale customers?
Roger Young at 818-249-8446. County for local. 249-8446.
So I believe on November 13th, we had LA County out there patrolling at night, as well as the Glendale's County Works patrolling at night, right, during the possible floods at that time that we were anticipating. So are we going to be able to see you guys out there every time we think that might be a chance of these kind of floods actually out there patrolling? I know that they were saying you have cameras up in the canyons, which is a great idea. But in terms of early warning, like this gentleman's saying, will there be vehicles driving around and checking this out, as these debris basins start to fill up? Because these floods that have all happened late at night. They all happen very fast.
Absolutely. Both of us will have staff out here. This is for both of us almost a normal winter type of situation. Obviously, more severe potential this year because of the fire. If it's windy, my crews were out till 10 o'clock at night last week when the wind started to blow, ready to patrol and look for anything that occurred as a result of the wind. And during normal rainy situations, we do that, and we certainly will for this event. That's it, folks. Thank you again so much. We're here.